So away we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world. We'll take a look at some clips from the news, have a little bit of dialogue that we'll share with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion. If you're listening somewhere else and you would like to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Coffee Talk and Prepper University, and that's at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat, and you can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta, Monday through Friday. So we'll go ahead and get started. Of course, I do read through as many comments as is reasonable, and I'll say hello to some of the people that are able to chime in so far. I see Helter has joined us today, as well as Brian and Dragon. I have one feline in the room. I have Monkey. He's laying on the floor right under my wheels, though, on my office chair. So I don't know if I can swing around and grab him just yet. I don't want to run him over by accident. Cyberjack Sr. has joined us. And hello to everyone else who is too shy to chime in and say hello. That's okay. You don't have to. You can go ahead and go on with your bad boy yourself as we get ready to jump off into the realm of the ridiculous and see what is going on in the world today. This is big. This first one is big, and it's kind of flying under the radar. You may have heard something about it. But it's been glazed over by political rhetoric. And this NBC News article: power goes out on entire island of Cuba, leaving 10 million people without electricity. Their entire grid failed last week. And it barely a blip on the radar. Barely a blip on the radar. The entire grid for the entire country of Cuba crashed. And Fluke Man has joined us. I think that's pretty major. So the electricity went out Friday in Cuba, affecting the entire island's population of 10 million after one of its main power plants failed, according to Cuba's energy ministry. On Friday evening, authorities announced power had been restored to about 20,000 residents of the capital, Havana, which has a population of 2 million. Power outages have been chronic in Cuba for years and have worsened in recent months, but the situation was so critical in the past 3 days that the government took measures to keep the lights on. On Thursday night, it announced schools would close and most state workers would stay home Friday in an effort to conserve energy, but it wasn't enough, and by Friday, 11 a.m., Antonio Guerra's thermoelectric, the largest power plant, went offline, causing a total grid failure. The communist-run country's aging and decrepit infrastructure has frequent outages because of difficulties with maintenance and lack of fuel. In some provinces outside Havana, many people have been facing blackouts that last up to 20 hours at a time and longer. Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel wrote on X that they are giving absolute priority to solving the problem, and that there won't be any rest until the power comes back on. They've managed to get it back up primarily just for infrastructure, though. What they're not telling you is that, of course, naturally they have to prioritize hospitals, military, emergency services, things like that, government. Cyberjack says even Guantanamo Bay. It doesn't say, but I would imagine Guantanamo Bay would be independent. Monkey has joined us, as well as Nature Nerd, who says Cuba sounds like South Africa's power grid, must be old infrastructure and corrupt. Also, because of embargoes. Now, remember, once upon a time, Obama pretended to be Cuba's friend for a little while there. You might remember this from back during the Obama administration. But none of the embargoes were ever lifted. And that means that neither the United States nor its allies can really help them. And they're relying primarily on burning oil, I believe, which they import from Venezuela, Russia, and China. China, which is facing a lot of financial structure problems themselves, Russia, which is at war, and Venezuela, which is a shithole now, they're not getting even the fuel that they need, let alone trying to rebuild anything as far as a power plant. It would be actually really good protocol on the part of the United States to reach out at this point. Hey, show us that you're not the Cuba that we know. Show us that Castro's Cuba has gone away. We'd like to help you. I'm sure they'd be desperate enough to take it at this point, and they could lock Cuba up. Cuba used to be really close with the United States up until Castro, up until they became communist and Castro overthrew the existing government. Cuba and the United States were tight, and that fell apart. And that this could be an opportunity to fix that and to get them away from communist interests. But they'll let that fall apart. Nobody in the current administration is intelligent enough to see that opportunity, unfortunately, because they need the help. They need the help, and there's a lot of family in the United States, especially Florida, from Cuba, and they don't care about the politics. They don't care about it. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I don't work in the government. I'm not the president. There's nothing I can do about it. Dragon says, imagine how bad the situation would be if the Cuban government forced everyone to buy an electric vehicle and a blackout were to suddenly sweep the nation. No kidding. And Puck says the top news story is Trump working at McDonald's. And we are going to say something about that here in a little bit, because there's actually more to it than just him going to McDonald's for a while. Helter says the reason this is happening is not because of the embargo. It's something simpler, communism. Well, of course, that is the root of it. Tuck says Obama is only Obama's friend. That's right. Brian said, thanks a lot. Socialism, and Semper Fi says exactly why I have power back and a backup for that. Absolutely. Absolutely. But they're barely getting the power back up. Right here, they say, I don't see a solution to the problem. They're not going to get a solution to this problem because the entire grid needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. They really are very isolated. They really are very isolated. And Puck says CIA is too busy trying to overthrow our government to be bothered with Cuba. There you go. There you go. And we will be talking about Trump here in a little bit because there is some interesting points to be made from that. But in the meantime, we'll jump to Georgia for something here really quickly. Although, again, yeah, that would be a great opportunity to try to fix relations with Cuba, especially with them being so close to us, and so many of their citizens already in the United States. That would be nice. Again, Obama, he play acted at it for a little while. He play acted at it, but he didn't really care about Cuba any more than he cares about anything else or anybody else. He's only out for number one, ladies and gentlemen. Only out for number one. And there's nothing wrong with watching out for yourself, but that's not the job. Nature Nerd says, does Cuba have the same embargoes that Russia has due to the Ukraine, which would make things worse in Cuba? That I'm not sure about. Washington Examiner article. We're going to talk about everybody's favorite district attorney, Fani Willis again. That's right, Fani Willis. There she is with her ex-boyfriend that she never should have had anything to do with in the first place. Never should have had anything to do with, because he was a married man, and that makes her a fornicator, and that makes him an adulterer. And if this was back in the Bible days, they would have been stoned at the gate. And I don't mean marijuana. And Rodney made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Rodney. Much appreciated. He says those three-letter agencies don't seem to have the best interests of U.S. citizens in mind. No. People are scared to death of them. Any three-letter agency, name it. CIA, FBI, EPA. You'd be surprised how many people are scared of the Environmental Protection Agency. The IRS, God, don't even get me started on the IRS. These are agencies that basically have no oversight, that can just grind people up. They can just grind people up, and nobody says or does anything about it. But yeah, thanks again for the donation, Rodney. Fani Willis is back in the news because Her ex-boyfriend there is under investigation. Nathan Wade testifies that Fani Willis jump-started the Trump investigation before she took office. That's important. Nathan Wade told Congress during a closed-door deposition that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis began preparing to prosecute former President Trump before she took office in January 2021, according to the transcripts that were released today. Wade said Willis began outreach for a Trump-related search committee sometime after the 2020 election, but prior to her taking office. Willis took office on January 1st, 2021, after winning her district attorney race the previous August, and it looks like she's going to win again. I don't know, is that election over? I don't remember. Wade remarked that Willis absolutely reached out to him before the day she took office to mobilize him and others to prosecute Trump for allegedly attempting to overturn the 2020 election, a sign that Trump was a top target and priority for her. This is the exact same way that the district attorney in New York got his job. He ran on the platform of I'll do whatever it takes to try to prosecute Trump, and Democrats dumped money into his campaign. Same with Fani Willis. I know everybody wants to say Fanny, but it's Fani. That's why she ran. She knew if she ran on that ticket that she would get the job because Democrats would pour cash into her campaign. Absolutely. Puck says, of course she did. That's why she had all those meetings at the White House, correct. Even though she denied those meetings, and it's been demonstrated now that she lied about that, but nothing's been done about it. Nothing has been done about it. Nature Nerd says America got sick of intervening in Cuba's affairs after World War II. Congress decided to have an isolationist policy on Cuba, which allowed it to become communist. Terrible foreign policy decision. Yeah, I know, especially after the whole Spanish-American War thing. And because that's where Theodore Roosevelt and the Rough Riders ended up, was in Cuba. If I remember correctly. Brian says liberals indeed. It says he also testified that when the committee began its work, the members of it turned their guns on him and urged him to accept a role as lead prosecutor in the Trump case. And this is a quote, I believe. So January 1st, I was part of the search committee for that newly elected district attorney, and we were tasked with trying to identify someone who would serve as lead counsel on the election interference investigation. Eventually, I guess the committee turned their guns on me and started trying to convince me to accept the role. It couldn't have been too hard considering that he made nearly or damn near $1.5 million out of it and barely put in like 8 or 12 hours worth of work. It's absolutely sickening. And Rodney made another donation to the channel. Wow, Rodney. Much appreciated. He says, I got questioned by local police in New Zealand at the request of the FBI. Why? Because I've upvoted a couple of comments on Odyssey for years, 4 years ago. Really? Are you serious? That's incredible. And he says the guy that had posted the comments later lost the plot and got himself unalived by the FBI. The comments weren't even particularly inflammatory. So because some guy was on Odyssey and you commented or you upvoted, you gave him a thumbs up, I guess you mean, Rodney? You gave him a thumbs up. And so the FBI asked New Zealand police to come and question you. That's scary. That's absolutely scary. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, because even if you are a so-called election denier, if you're an election denier, you end up on some secret watch list in the United States. And I've talked about it. That happened to the Doctor of Common Sense, who used to have a big YouTube channel, and he's off somewhere now. His channel was shut down, and he did something else somewhere else, but I don't know where he is now. But yeah, he had the FBI show up at his door and question him about some of the things that he said on his channel. It's insane. And Rodney says the U.S.'s three-letter agencies can pound sand. I totally understand, and confirms, yes, he means thumbs up. Thumbs up. He goes on to say, I'm not happy with our local police for being so pathetic either. Yeah, because they don't have to go along with that. It sounds so pitiful. It's like you're in class and you're complaining to the teacher because Jimmy's looking at me. Miss Mulligan, Jimmy is staring at me. Seriously? So? It's pathetic that they would even pursue that. I'm sorry to hear that. That's interesting, but it's really unfortunate that that's what the world's coming to. And Puck says New Zealand is a police state. You better be fully vaccinated. Oh my God. Well, he's claiming, Wade here is claiming that they kind of coerced him into taking the position as special prosecutor. But again, he made so much money off that. I doubt that there was very much persuasion to be had. I mean, seriously, how much persuasion could there have been? Could there have been from her? I believe it was mostly nepotism, and he's trying to sidestep it because Fani and him were having an affair, which is how he really got the job, in my opinion, because they were having an affair, and they should be stoned at the gate. Chillin' Dave is here. Glad you could make it. And Brian says the student who called out Jimmy for staring at him should grow up. Exactly. And Rodney says, yeah, you lost your job here if you refused the vax. And that happened also in the United States to a certain degree, where a lot of professionals, doctors, nurses, dentists, teachers, firefighters, EMTs, police, lost their jobs. And then all those agencies complained that they had shortages. It's your fault. And now we have like this seemingly, got to be careful with your wording, we have this epidemic of strokes and heart attacks and Alzheimer's in the United States. Funny how that works. Fluke Man says, why were the authorities monitoring thumbs up and down? It's not the same as making a comment. Who knows? Who knows? He also said that Wade, and it's not in this article, but I read in a different article, that he knew nothing. He admits he knew nothing about RICO, and that he had to take crash courses in it even to get started. He didn't know how to do the job. He admits he doesn't understand RICO laws and didn't know what to do. And there's Colorado Outings joining us. Glad you could make it today. So yeah, he's admitted everything but the nepotism that she brought him in because they were having an affair. And I don't see him trying to give any of that money back, any of that lovely tax money that was paid to him for basically nothing. Absolutely nothing. Sickening. Sickening. What a world. The witch was right. The wicked witch was right. What a world. What a world. Unfortunately. Now, the thing that is the top news of the entire weekend, you all know. You all know this one already, and it's hilarious, but it runs a lot deeper than what you see here. ABC News, Trump mocks Harris's story from behind the fryer at McDonald's. Yes, there he is, another iconic photo of Donald Trump. There you go. He just can't. That is right up there with the mugshot. and the fist pump with the bloody face. That is perfect. Catch up a couple of comments and we'll get into this. Monkey says, terrifying that even a thumbs up can get cops sent after you. Yeah, I would be very worried. So much for free speech, right? So much for free speech. And Puck says, Wade being appointed demonstrates that the case had no merit. It was a show, just like the one in New York. And both Willis and the district attorney of New York, his name fails me at the moment. Both of them ran on the platform of, I'll find some way to get Trump into court, no matter what I have to do. And in the case of the district attorney in New York, he essentially broke the law to do it. But that was the whole thing. These are unqualified people wasting time and wasting taxpayer dollars in pursuit of something that shouldn't even be in court. Chillin says, I see all these folks showing their ignorance when the grid goes down, panic, lies, thefts, and that's our leaders. And then Monkey said that would be something AI would make with including Trump working at McDonald's, but now it's a reality. Brian says, I think Trump's the man. You're all welcome. Come visit me in jail. Okay. Now, I'll tell you why, my opinion on this in a moment. Okay. It says former President Donald Trump worked at the Fryer at a Philadelphia area McDonald's Sunday as he continues to mock Democratic presidential opponent Vice President Kamala Harris accounts of her experience working at the fast food restaurant. The former president was scheduled to speak at Lancaster, Pennsylvania rally later in the day before attending the New York Jets Pittsburgh Steelers NFL game Sunday night. Harris spoke at services at two congregations in battleground Georgia on Sunday morning as her campaign continues to encourage groups that are traditional Democratic voters to get to the polls. And then it goes on to talk about what she had to say for like the rest of the article. I don't give a crap about that. I don't care what kind of lies she told in church over the weekend. But this is really interesting to me. And this is really interesting to me. Now, they're accusing in the media Trump of trolling Harris by doing this. And they're also saying that it's just a photo op, it's just pandering. Okay. He is taking, very likely, a jab at Kamala Harris. And sure, it's probably pandering. Because, again, he's got some iconic photos there once more, but it's no less pandering than when you see politicians in a soup kitchen handing out sandwiches for 10 minutes for a photo op and then blows the joint, like Obama and Michelle did, coming in to Michelle and her $3,000 sneakers. You remember that from a few years back? Let me hand out a couple of trays and get the hell out of here. These people smell bad. Like these politicians give a shit about anyone in a homeless shelter, like they do that all the time. At least Trump likes McDonald's. I'm more insulted by politicians pretending to give a crap about people in a homeless shelter than I would be offended by him doing this. By what was the name of that show? Dirty Jobs. Him basically doing dirty jobs for a day. What was it? Mike Rowe? Dirty Jobs. At least he actually likes McDonald's. It's a guilty pleasure of his. He used to have it delivered to the White House when he was there. As a matter of fact, he even catered at least once, catered an event at the White House with McDonald's for a visiting football team, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, that makes sense. As far as trolling Kamala, okay, here's the thing, and this has come to light recently. Please do look it up. Evidently, there is no evidence Kamala ever worked for McDonald's. This is what's been exposed the last couple of weeks here. They can find no evidence, zero, that she was ever employed at McDonald's, because she's been going on for years I think it first came up during her original presidential run in 2019. I paid my way through college working at McDonald's. Yeah, maybe not. There's no verification. And I saw USA Today, I don't have the article pulled up, but USA Today attempted to fact check that as false because they claim that McDonald's did not verify that she never worked there. So false. That's not exactly the truth. That's more equivocation on the part of USA Today. What McDonald's said was they have no comment because they cannot confirm or deny it. Translation, we can't find a record and we don't want to get involved. You would think someone would step up and come forward. Somebody had worked with her at that time. Oh yeah, Kamala. Yeah, we both worked there. We were both cashiers at McDonald's. She was there for like a year and a half when we were going to university. No one has come forward and said anything. Someone must have worked with her. They asked her sister about it. No comment. Translation, it's probably made up. It's plausible that she's lying about the experience to sound like she's down to earth. It's up there with Joe Biden and his uncle being eaten by cannibals in the South Pacific, which we all know is a lie. And it amazes me that these people keep lying about this stuff. And even if they're called out on it, just move on, move along, nothing to see here. Nature Nerd says, how did the government get access to thumbs up log on one random comment? What a waste of time. That's on the previous subject, obviously. Puck says fake news media was upset that Secret Service was vetting the drive-through customers. Maybe they had a shooter in the line. Oh, well, of course they're going to do that. And H12 has joined us. Glad you could make it. And he says, I never would have imagined seeing Trump in an apron. The big joke, of course, and why they said he's trolling is that when one of the customers was talking to him in the drive-through window, he says, I've now worked at McDonald's 15 minutes longer than Kamala Harris. Which, again, we now have found that she's not able to provide any evidence that she was ever employed by McDonald's. And it's likely, again, I can't prove it one way or the other, but it's likely that she's fabricated that story. Semper says Trump has more experience at McDonald's than Kamala. There you are. And Brian says she gives the sneakers a stench that will never come out. I guess you're talking about Michelle Obama. Puck says, what do you call that stunt camel toe pulled instead of going to the dinner in New York City? Oh my, you guys. Nature Nerd says Trump dirty jobs, McDonald's fry cook and concrete worker. Tuck says, did she work off the books? Call the tax collectors. You weren't working off the books in McDonald's, even in the 80s. They were too big to risk anything like that. Flukeman says Trump obviously did it for fun. Yeah, basically. And he wants people to know that. But Obama working in a soup kitchen is false marketing. I agree. That's why that offends me whenever politicians do that. They go to a food pantry or a soup kitchen or something like that. It's all total bullshit. This is just Trump fooling around, took a couple of jabs at Kamala, whatever. Yeah, but again, the important takeaway from this, look it up for yourself. There's no evidence she ever worked at McDonald's. She can't prove it. You would think even she could find old bank records of a check deposit or a direct deposit from McDonald's. There's nothing. Semper Fi says, correct, McDonald's could find zero history of her ever working there. That's right. And H12 said, I bet she worked an afternoon and quit and never got put on the payroll. Maybe she used to work in their parking lot. kind of like Wendy from Breaking Bad. Anyways, Puck says Kamala didn't mention working at McDonald's until she was running for president. Of course, she's lying. Monkey said, I saw someone actually got the nuggets from where Trump worked at and got 7 nuggets instead of 6. There you go. Cyberjack says, these aren't the droids you're looking for. Puck said Trump held a press conference at the drive-through window too. That was hilarious. Why not? Why not? Let him enjoy it. Let the man enjoy it. Nature Nerd says, good how McDonald's is not woke at least. I don't know. Not as far as I can tell. But not as far as I can tell. But they didn't want to get involved. So they said they could neither confirm nor deny her employment. And as I stated earlier, USA Today tried to claim that as a fact check false, that she never worked there, because they never said that she didn't, but they never said that she did either. They just said they couldn't find anything. Raccoon says, I bet Trump actually enjoyed the experience and the attention from drive-through customers' reaction. I know I would have been excited to see him. And it's no, David Letterman used to do the same thing. He did it at Burger King, right? Who remembers? David Letterman did that at drive-throughs before. And he'd give people a really hard time over the intercom. And then they drive up to the window all mad. And they'd be like, oh, shit, David Letterman. What are you doing, man? Letterman used to do that. So, yeah, Brian says he barely lasted a month working at Burger King. Semper says maybe she did work there and she quit because they didn't serve alcohol. Oh, that's what it is. She needed an open bar. Nature Nerd says, I want to try a $5 meal at McDonald's. But he at least he legitimately actually likes McDonald's. Like I pointed out at one point, at least once that I know of, he catered the White House with McDonald's for a visiting football team. And part of the reason was because he said that, I'm trying to remember, that because the kitchen staff at the White House are technically federal employees, that it would be a misuse of tax dollars or something like that. So he catered. And I was like, that's actually kind of neat. I'm not a fan of McDonald's food, but that's kind of neat. Monkey says, I know Letterman did Taco Bell and McDonald's too. Okay, I couldn't remember. I know he did that in the 80s, back when he was still with NBC. He had done that drive-through window stunt a couple times. Excuse me. As we get ready to shift around. This one really knocks me out. We're going to jump to Massachusetts now. And we're going to talk about the public school system. Public school system. Tribune News Service article. Massachusetts parents file a lawsuit because their son got a D on his paper for using AI. Let that sink in for a minute. And this is Hingham High School. I don't know where Hingham High School is. I didn't go there. Monkey says there's a photo with Alabama, or was it Clemson, don't know, football with Trump and the players with McDonald's. That could be it. And Tuck says Ben Affleck is doing Dunkin' Donuts. Is he? I used to go to Dunkin' Donuts a lot. The Dunkin' Donuts is very prominent on the East Coast, and I used to go there all the time when I was young, before I moved away. And I haven't seen a Dunkin'. Well, they got Dunkin' Donuts in Georgia, but it's not the same. I've gone in there and I didn't want to do anything once I looked around because I was so disappointed. They don't. I remember just racks and racks of donuts and that fresh bakery smell. And now it's like this really, really minuscule selection, and then a whole lot of coffee and a Baskin Robbins tie-in. And it just doesn't feel the same to me. Jericho is here. He says, public schools, here we go. Yup, you knew it. Rodney says, we really shouldn't hand over our thinking to the machines. I recall a movie where that had happened and it didn't end well for humans. No, it won't, because humans are inherently lazy. And if you let machines think for you, you'll get to a point where you won't think at all. So here we go. Shortly after their son received a D grade for using AI on a history paper at Hingham High School, his parents filed a suit claiming that artificial intelligence is here to stay. While artificial intelligence is a new technology and is still emerging, it is widely accepted. Businesses, other industries, academia, and even the legal profession are still grappling with how to address its use, states a complaint filed last month in Plymouth County Superior Court and refiled, recently in federal court in Boston. That's why I didn't grow up in Plymouth. I've been to Plymouth. Plymouth Rock is actually pretty small. You could probably pick it up and walk away with it. The lawsuit is a novel one, as Duxbury attorney Peter Farrell writes in the complaint that he believes this is a case of first impression in the Commonwealth, meaning that it presents a legal issue that has never been decided by the governing jurisdiction, according to Cornell University's Wex Law Dictionary. Hingham residents Dale and Jennifer Harris do not contest that their son did not use AI to work on his paper regarding basketball legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's civil rights work. What the hell bullshit is that? Oh my God. I mean, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has civil rights work. Is that true? I never heard that. I remember his attempts at acting. He was in an episode of Man from Atlantis. Who remembers Man from Atlantis? And he was in THX 1138. He played the hologram actor. Instead, they argued that he wasn't expressly barred from using the technology, so it shouldn't count against him. Oh, is that the argument? There's no rule that says he can't use it, so he didn't break any rules by using it. They want to sue for this? Our son cheated on a paper, and there's no rule that says he can't cheat like this, so we're going to sue the school. Watch them win, too, because it's Massachusetts. And Puck invokes Skynet. Tuck says, I can see a Dunkin' Donuts from my house. I've been there maybe 4 times in 8 years. And Nature Nerd says, you have to write your paper. A machine should not do it for you. That is so lazy. Hey, public school, Tuck. Nature Nerd, what do you want? Tuck says, politicians have been using supercomputing to predict human behavior for some time. They were already on that not thinking for themselves bandwagon. Cyberjack Sr. says, Conan the Destroyer. No, that's not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain was in Conan the Destroyer. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the guy who was in that Bruce Lee film that never got finished, when Bruce Lee was in that yellow outfit. Rodney says, I remember the Man from Atlantis. His swimming technique was weird as hell. Well, his, if I remember correctly, the actor's, was it Patrick Duffy? Was it Patrick Duffy? His sister was like an Olympic swimmer, and she taught him how to swim for the part. And he did it like that deliberately to try to look more fish-like. Puck says we need to go from 10 lawyers per person to 1 lawyer per 100,000 people. Yeah, Tuck says Wilt the Stilt, the guy who bragged in his book that he had slept with over 10,000 groupies. Who remembers that? They made fun of him relentlessly for that in shows like Saturday Night Live and stuff. That he said that he's had sex with over 10,000 different women. Is that really an accomplishment? I don't know. But this cracks me up that they actually. I think it's hilarious that they want him to do a paper, on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's civil rights work in the first place. Secondly, the fact that these parents are willing to go as far. How much money do these parents have that they could file a lawsuit against the school, a frivolous lawsuit on a technicality? Oh, well, your charter doesn't say that he can't use AI. I mean, oh my God. That's like if I had a twin, an identical twin, like even fingerprints are the same, right? And I said, okay, my twin wrote the paper. He's kind of like me. There's nothing in your charter that says a twin can't do it. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. And they caught him and he got a D. It says this lawsuit is not about the expulsion or the suspension of a high school student. Instead, the dispute concerns a student dissatisfied with a letter grade in an AP US history class having to attend a Saturday detention and his deferral from NHS, rudimentary student discipline administered for academic integrity violations. The defendants must stand by the just and legitimate discipline rendered, the motion states. Otherwise, they invite dissatisfied parents and students to challenge day-to-day discipline, even grading of students, in state and federal courts. I'm just waiting for it. Watch them get away with it. Jericho says that's like him getting a C for using a calculator, even though they're provided. Makes no sense. Now that this is coming around, we can expect all school boards to implement a huge AI overhaul on regulations. And Thomas has joined us. Thanks for coming in today, Thomas. Nature Nerd says he probably didn't even check grammar or syntax. That's why he got the D. That could be, because who does that anymore? And you rely on these systems for grammar and syntax. I mean, how many times do I catch it reading articles? How many times that a punctuation is missed, a word is repeated in a sentence, or something is wrong otherwise? I catch it all the time. Even reading news articles, because they're relying more and more on AI to structure the sentences, and AI doesn't really understand proper sentence structure. It guesses at it at best. Guesses at best. It's not very good. Monkey, did you leave? Monkey's not under my chair anymore, I don't think. Oh well. Monkey Cat is not in the room. I am without cats again. Oh, they're around, trust me. But they're not here. They're not here. Now here's someone else I wish would just go away. Just fade away, please. Please go away. I think this person's a fraud. Anyways. Couple more comments. Monkey says either that or students writing all of a sudden in very high grade or college level writing. And Fluke Man says schools should have refused to give him a grade at all, and all his work should be put into question. I don't know what the problem is, because he'll still graduate. He'll still graduate because the standards are so freaking low that he'll get a passing grade. He'll get a passing grade. He could have all D's. He could have all D's and he'll still grade. Raccoon says, I let AI write my eBay auctions. It does a better job than me. Well, I've seen those. They're flowery, but they don't describe the item. And that's kind of a problem. And Tuck says, those 4 Patriots commercials are hilarious. The script is read poorly by AI. And Puck says, let AI give him a grade. It'll be an A+. Fox Business article. Bernie Sanders singles out corporate greed for the inflation surge. I don't apologize for government spending. Oh God, I'm so tired of this man. The man whose only claim to fame is that he says that one white guy with glasses in that blurry photograph of one of Martin Luther King's marches is him. And there's no way to prove it. I don't know if that's Bernie Sanders. Man never worked a day in his life. I think he was, 40 before he got his first job? Is that right? Or damn near 40 years old, and his first job was as mayor of some sleepy town in New Hampshire or something? What a load of shit. Rodney says, I recall Bernie Sanders always ranted about the millionaires and billionaires until he became a millionaire and dropped the first bit. No kidding. No kidding. I know. So here we are. Bernie Sanders in the news again. Can't go away. Retire. Go sit on the beach. Wear your mittens. Senator Bernie Sanders is unapologetic about exorbitant government spending during the C virus pandemic, telling Fox News' Mariah Bartiromo on Sunday that corporate greed, not relief spending, has been the culprit of inflation. If you look at Joe Biden's popularity record when he was most popular, it's after we passed the American Rescue Plan, he said on this week's Sunday Morning Futures. We saved childcare. We saved hospitals. We saved colleges. So I don't apologize. If that's true, how come all those agencies are still in trouble? How come they're all still in trouble? And how come we still have Harris campaigning that she's going to save childcare? You just said it was saved. Make up your mind. But take a look at the kind of profits that are in the food industry, in the oil industry. They've been raising the prices exponentially and ripping off the American consumer, in my view. Yeah. It's got nothing to do with all the extra taxes and regulations you dumped on it, right? I'm sure that's got nothing to do with it. Again, when they wanted to lower the gas prices, what happened? They removed one tax from it. It went down 50 cents a gallon. What a load of shit. The guy's a fraud. Tuck says Sanders is a decrepit KGB plant, and he doesn't even know the Soviet Union fell. And Puck says, don't buy Ford Patriot solar generators. They're junk. Okay. Monkey says Bernie is that guy that actually needs to retire, but no, he'll lose all of his benefits. He just wants to still have power and authority. He just wants to keep having that power and authority. And he's a miserable old bastard. He really is. What an unhappy, angry person. It's miserable. And he wants to make everyone else miserable, honestly. Monkey goes on to say, oh, yeah, and right by my workplace as a plan sign saying this road project was funded by Biden's America Rescue Plan, and the road project was repaving 3 roads, nothing major. Flukeman says industries should sue the entire education system for producing poor quality workers. Schools are mass producing cheap crap like Chinese factories. Nature Nerd wants Bernie to retire to Cuba. And Tuck says Biden knows the USSR collapsed, but he forgot. He was there, man. He was there. He was directly responsible for it. As a matter of fact, he was the first guy to start sledging the wall. Him and Sting were out there sledgehammering the wall. Puck says Bernie Sanders is a fraud. He demonstrated that when he dropped out of the race, even though he was beating Hillary. Yeah, he dropped out because they set him up to. They set him up to. I'm just so sick and tired of seeing this guy. I just, another one that I wish would just go away permanently. And then he's going to claim, has the nerve to claim, we saved childcare, we saved hospitals, we saved colleges. All of those industries are still suffering. And Harris is running on the platform right now of childcare. That's one of her nods. That's one of her ticket items. Abortion, childcare, stuff like that are on her, and tax the rich are on her agenda. So how could you have saved it if it's still in trouble, if it's still in turmoil? How could you have saved it if hospitals are still struggling? Because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You make it up as you go, like everyone else out there. It's insulting. It's insulting. It says, goes on to say, another quote, did we invest in helping working class families during the C virus pandemic? We did. I was the chairman of the budget committee. I worked on that. So the folks out there who got that $1,400 check when people were losing their jobs and small businesses were going out of business, yeah, we did that. We put money into hospitals so that people could get the health care they needed. They your committee closed a lot of those hospitals. Let me fix this. You closed a lot of those hospitals. You did not prevent any of those small businesses from going out of businesses. Many mom and pop operations across the country shut down permanently and never came back. They're gone, while the big box stores got to stay open. And as far as that $1,400 check, that's cute, but all of those checks didn't even equal, what, 10% of the total package, much of which went overseas. Went overseas. You sent it out of the country. In that package was LGBTQ money for the Middle East and garbage like that. Oh, but you gave Americans a little $1,400 check and gave away hundreds of billions of dollars to other countries and other agencies. What a lie. What a lying piece of crap. Ooh-wee. Monkey says Bernie displaying the boomer mentality stereotype of keeping power and holding on until he croaks. And Rodney says Harris running on childcare is creepy. Keep those weirdos away from your children. And then Puck says, I remember Bernie's brother in 2016 saying in a video that re-education camps or gulags were needed for Republicans and expressed hope that would come to fruition. Yeah, that sounds familiar, actually, Puck. And Tuck says some people spent their stimmy money on preps. I'm cool with that. But most of them spent that money at Walmart buying a big screen television. And as you recall, if you remember, the big box stores, Best Buy, Walmart, Target, whatever, right before those checks came out, they were loaded with flat screen TVs, busting at the seams with flat screen televisions at a time where we were being told goods and services weren't making it to the stores. They sure did get those TVs out, though, didn't they? Didn't they? Flukeman says they didn't save anything. Those who did benefit, thanks to the taxpayers. And while we're on the Berlin Wall, I have these sitting here. I just wanted to show that really quick. You see these two mugs? I found these at Goodwill. They're Christmas mugs, red with a little tree, little Santa, very rudimentary looking mugs. But look at that. Cold War era occupied Germany mugs. See? Cold War era occupied Germany mugs. Souvenirs for if you crossed over the wall. I found these at, no, not Goodwill, Value Village. I found them at Value Village. I wouldn't drink out of them. They're probably like 90% lead. And Puck says big screen TVs are a must for the apocalypse. And Tuck says that's awesome. Yeah, I know. I knew something was off when I saw it. I was like, I know that's a vintage mug. And then when I turned it over and I saw that Weisterbach, West Germany, I was like, oh shit. There's your this is probably the only thing that you could get out of the country, get out of the occupied Germany at the time while the wall was still up, was these. Anyways, Rodney says, great to see those Cold War mugs. And Nature Nerd says, I know a guy that used his check for a Jeep. It's better than a big screen TV. Brian says, what do you think of Halloween? Halloween's dead. I mean, I never got to do Halloween. When I was a kid, I wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to do Halloween. My mother, however, was kind enough to let me give away candy to everyone else. Actually, she insisted I do that. So, which was kind of mean. And then when my sister was born, she got to go trick-or-treating. Yeah, it's like that. But I couldn't do Halloween when I was a kid. It is a pagan holiday. It is a pagan holiday, or it's rooted in a pagan holiday anyways. But it's so commercialized, I wouldn't associate it with a pagan holiday anymore. I don't like the idea of trunk or treat at churches because since it is rooted in the pagan holiday, you ought not to probably do it at church. And they call it something else, but you're still celebrating it and you should leave it alone. That's my opinion. But as far as it being a holiday is concerned, I think nostalgic adults are more connected to Halloween nowadays than kids are. It's not like when I was growing up, or even when I used to take my kids. Every year going out, you could see a little bit less interest and a little bit less interest. And I don't know, it doesn't seem to me like it's hardly even being done anymore. You know what I mean? Even the aisles in the stores that have Halloween merchandise, every year it's a little less, a little less, a little less. Puck says they have a world band radio from West Germany. It takes 8D batteries. Yeah, it probably lasts like an hour too. Monkey says, honestly, that's an antique that'll probably be worth some money. I have no idea. I just thought it was neat. And George says East Germany was occupied by Russia, not the West. Yeah. Russia was in control of it. Well, basically, they cut off Berlin, if I remember correctly. Rodney says Halloween isn't much of a thing over here. Now that I'm an old geezer, we use it as an excuse for a party. And Puck says, I almost thought you said paid holiday. No, it's not a paid holiday. Not yet. Not yet. If Indigenous People Day is a paid holiday, Halloween may as well be one too. And Monkey says they have a Savers near them. I should probably check it out when I'm not at work this week to see what I can find. Yeah, nobody seems to really care that much anymore. I remember when a store would have aisles and aisles of just costumes. Never mind the candy section. But now, do you see any costumes? That one lane in front of the self-checkout at Walmart is probably about it. And then maybe another lane with some Halloween candy. It's really fading out. Brian says he hates the modern world. And Tuck says, I've not had a kid come to my door on Halloween since I moved here. We don't buy candy anymore. Yeah, it's dying. Halloween's a dying entity at this point. Christmas is kind of fading too. Thanksgiving, all of these big holidays are just sort of fading out. They're not nearly as important as they used to be. Especially now that there's no more true network television, there's no Christmas specials. You probably remember Halloween and Christmas specials. You'd watch The Grinch That Stole Christmas. The Grinch has a Halloween episode also. Berenstain Bears had some really funny holiday specials, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Halloween. And they were like Dr. Seuss. It rhymed. They spoke in rhyme in the cartoon specials. Of course, the Peanuts. Nobody cares about that anymore. Or the Rankin Bass stuff, like Santa Claus is coming to town and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, things like that. That we all used to look forward to every year, and now modern kids don't even know they exist. Nature Nerd says Russia basically got most of the land that Germany conquered after the war. And Tuck says, we will always have Thanksgiving in my house. We keep a turkey in the freezer at all times. There you go. And Brian made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Brian. Always appreciated. Goes a long way. Goes a long way with all the critters that we have to take care of, all the cats. Still looking for a TNR resource. Still looking for a TNR resource to try to get them taken care of. I know somebody recommended West Georgia Spay and Neuter in Douglas County, but I checked them out. They want a lot. They want a lot, and they have very strict rules. They have very strict rules. It's not going to be compatible. I'll end up paying damn near $200 a cat. It's not going to work. Oh, yeah, I read that. And a couple more here because we're getting close to the end. Fluke Man says, if I had children, they probably would allow them to celebrate Halloween because it's paganism, but I enjoy watching PG to 18 mature horror and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Harry Potter. Is that an oxymoron? I don't think there's anything. I know a lot of people say that kind of stuff's demonic. As long as the person viewing it understands it's fantasy, I don't think there's a problem with it. And Nature Nerd says they notice haunted houses are ever priced this year, or the prices are going up at haunted houses, you mean? H12 says there's a sidewalk in front of my house this year. Maybe I'll have trick-or-treaters. Maybe. And George says, can you give a shout out to Felix from Germany? He's listening. Oh, okay. Hey, Felix, if you're listening from Germany, because I know there's people that watch that can't comment. So hello, Felix. Hope everything is well. I'll show you the, oh, he can't see then if he's only listening. There's my East German mugs one more time. Or West German, excuse me, West German. So I'll go ahead and start wrapping up because we are at the top of the hour. One more here. Raccoon says before VCRs, you could record Rudolph if you missed it on TV. The holiday was ruined. Yeah, and then they came out on cassette. I still got them on disc. I got all that Rankin Bass stuff on disc, including Little Drummer Boy, which is not funny at all. It's a straight up and down drama. I mean, you literally watch this kid's parents getting burned to death. It's nuts. But anyways, with that, we'll go ahead and start wrapping up. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk. And you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and Prep University on YouTube. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. Special thanks to Rodney and to Brian, who made donations to the channel today. Always helpful, always appreciated, sincerely. Thank you, everyone else who was able to join us here today. Glad you could make it, as always. Hope you got something out of the conversation. And we will catch you again